Yes, very slow practice video for Symphonie Espanole by Édouard LaLo, Opus 21. So this is what, I'm just going to do the first page, and this is how I would first approach it. If you've just seen the music for the very first time, what I try to do with my students is I don't just play it really fast. I actually break it down into a whole bunch of shift practicing and slow practicing and rhythm practicing to make sure you get it right the first time, hopefully. So it starts with an A, and you shift up to an E. I go 1 to a 3 on the E. However, I'm not even going to play the E right now. I'm just going to shift from the A to the C sharp, like this. I call it siren practicing. So when you shift, make sure you shift with your arm around the violin. Don't shift like this, because you're going to end up having to go super high anyway. So coming around the violin is the best way, I think, to shift. When you do your shifting, make sure your thumb follows. So you don't keep your thumb back and go. Not very good, because it ends up like this, which is a lot of tension and not the best way. Okay. And now you know why I call it the siren practicing, because it sounds like a siren. So you have to keep in mind, I've been playing this song for quite some time, so you will practice that shift over and over and over till you can't get it wrong. So I'm going to speed it up a little bit, as if I'd practiced it maybe 5-10 minutes, and then I speed it up a little bit. And then after I get that really, really good, then I do it super fast, like. See, and that was a little bit out of tune, so I have to make sure I don't play it out of tune. So, the reason why I do this is I always try to have somewhat of an anchor note on my shifting so I can plant and be better in tune. For me, it works the best for me. So, I'm sure there's other ways to do it, but I found this is the best way. Now we're going to add in that E. And go backwards. Now, make sure you play absolutely in tune. If you need to, use a tuner. So if you practice out of tune, there's no point. Why even do it? So make sure you nail it absolutely in tune. And remember the arm shifting and your thumb follows. Your hand moves as a unit. Okay, so after you do that slow, you do a little faster. And then even faster. Okay, after you get that really, really good, then I just play the first three notes is what I mean. And I do. Now, I do the shifting that we have practiced over and over. I just don't play it. So I shift to the C sharp, but I don't play it, and then I put my E down. So shift to the C sharp, and then, and you've done this like probably for half an hour now, or hundreds of times already, so you should be able to nail it without making any mistake. And you just do it over and over, so you get used to how it feels, what it looks like, what it sounds like, so it can just be ingrained in your muscle memory, in your brain, everything. Now, just because you've done it for one day, the next day, I would still practice the slow stuff, just because sometimes for me, if I practice it just one day, that shift one day, the next day doesn't mean I'm going to have it perfect again. I have to keep practicing it over and over and over. Okay, so we have the first measure down. Woohoo! Okay, next measure. let's play the first measure first. Okay, now we have to go to a high A. So in your music, you might see an 8 with the dot, 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 dot. That actually means 8 VA, which means play an octave higher than is actually written. Okay, so we have our 1 on the C sharp and our 3 down on the E. Now I want you to take your 3 off, play the 1, which is the C sharp, and you're going to do the siren practice from C sharp to A. So if you're not quite sure if that's in tune, play it with your open A. And back down to the C sharp. Make sure you do your arm shifting. Not like this. That does not work. Okay, so nice and slow, a whole bunch of times, and then a little faster. And then faster. Woo! It's a hard one. It's a big shift. So when you go faster, if you notice you're not playing it in tune, go back a level and do it slower again, just like I need to do. Okay, so once you get that super good, then I add in the E. So I still have my first finger down on C sharp, play the third finger E, and I go E, C sharp, all the way up to an A. And then I'm going to reach for the E. Super hard, super high. For me, the fingering that I use is for the A, I play a 1, and for the E, I play a 3. This works for my hand because my hand's a little bigger. If you have a smaller hand, you'll have to maybe do a different fingering or whatever your teacher decides. But for me, it works for 1, and then 1 for the A, 3 for the E. So all right, so I go back to the C sharp, E, A, E. All right, so let's start from the beginning. That's 2 measures down. We have shift to the F sharp, shift to the A, and I would just practice it nice and slow so you nail it every single time. So many people play this out of tune. It's crazy. So if you practice it like this and you do it well and concentrate totally in tune, you'll nail it every time. So and here I do off the string at the frog. Nice and short. And I missed it, so I need to practice that more. Okay, from here, I slide all the way back to third position. That's a huge shift. So I would practice the siren shifting from the E up here. So go back up. It's a down bow to an up bow. So I start down bow. So slide down, and right as you get to this C sharp, switch to an up bow. Nice. Sounds like a cat. All right, so you practice that a whole bunch of times. On the C sharp, I go. Now here's another shift. This is, I go from 1, the E, to a G sharp, to the C sharp. So I'm going to practice E to G sharp. Siren practice. Now this shift may seem totally insignificant, like I can totally get that shift, no big deal. However, even if the shifts seem so simple, keep practicing them with the siren practicing so that you know for sure you can nail it every single time. Even if it doesn't seem that big of a deal, still practice it that way. Nice and slow till you feel like your arm gets it, your brain is getting it, everything. You can like space off and nail it a million times and go a little faster. And then super fast. Okay, so now I look at it, it's up bow, so I'm going to practice going up bow, going E to G sharp to the C sharp. Then I go backwards. I'll do it again. And then, once I get that really good, then I go. So I still keep my finger down. I never lift it off. I don't go one. I don't go the one and then go lift off and then go in the dark. I always have that anchor note. So remember to do your best to always have an anchor note. There are some exceptions to that, and I'll show you that later. But okay, so I'm going to start on the third measure of the violin music part. So seventh measure overall, but third measure of the music. So and lift off. Nice accent. And if you see it, there's a fermata over there. So make sure you really hold it out nice and long. Nice vibrato. Okay, now you're going to slide up from an E. Slide up to on the G string. There's a Roman numeral 4 above that measure. That means sul G, which also means play it all on the G string. So you're going to have to practice, siren practice from the E to the A. So so I completely just did that super fast. You would probably practice that, who knows how long, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Depends on how much you've actually practiced the shift before. If it's completely new, it might take a really long time. But don't get discouraged. Be patient. Practice it over and over. And then when you get to it the next day or in another piece, you won't have to practice it as long or hard because you've already done it a ton in this piece. So there is a bonus. At first it's a little frustrating to practice every single shift, but please make sure to do it. Promise, it'll pay off in the end. All right, so I'm going to start from the C sharp on measure 7 of the piece. Lift. Fermata. Okay, so we have to talk about something in this piece called super triplets. You will see in that measure we just ended that has 3 quarter notes with a box over it with a 3. That means that those have to be played as a triplet over 2 quarter notes or over a half note. This is called a super triplet. A lot of people play this wrong, and so you kind of just have to get your jive on. Make sure you play it correctly. I like to have it played what's called portato, a little bit of a space, possibly upper half area of the bow. So it's a teeny tiny space, or compared to, you could do, see how that's completely legato? For my taste, I don't like that, but some other people might do it that way. Depends on who you take from and or what recording you listen to online or something. You could do that, but I like this. Okay, so there's super triplet compared to just the normal triplet, which is over 1/4 note. So make sure when you see that the normal triplet, you really hammer your fingers so it's nice and clean. Okay, so I'm going to do the shift from, really hammer this, and save your bow so that you have enough for the half note that comes after. So some people do this, they go, and they're like, ah, and they run out of bow. So do the triplet right at the frog. Okay, so I'm going to start from the fermata note. Yeah, okay, then we're going to shift to a 3 after this, which is kind of a difficult shift, but from that F, and you're going to replace it with your 3rd finger. So we have to do another siren shift. So we're going to go from F to a D. Okay, once you get that, totally fast forward with that. But. Okay, now we're ready to move on because we've practiced that to the point where we can't get it wrong. To go back to the fermata note. Here we go. Okay, so now we need to practice that harmonic shift. Super fun, but make sure you do it slow so you can nail it, of course. So start on the E grace note with your 2nd finger. This is the fingering I do. I do a 2nd finger there, and I slide up to the 2nd finger so I can flip it off a little bit and let it ring out. Okay, so I practice it that way, and I practice it backwards. Okay, so now to get a little technical, make sure the grace note, getting up to the harmonic, doesn't take very much bow. So try to make sure you do it in the upper 3rd or 4th part of your bow. So you have the rest of the bow to really have that harmonic ring out. Like that. Now as it's ringing out, sometimes you can lift your finger off at the very end of the harmonic. See how I do that? And it still rings. So then that gives me the opportunity to shift all the way back down to 1st position so I can get the next measure with the D and do. Okay, so we're going to play from the grace note again. Okay, so for me, sometimes on this note, when I have the dotted half note, a lot of people don't play it its full value. So make sure that when you do, you go all the way to the tip of the bow, so you have the full bow to do 3 counts. 2, 3, and then you sustain it into when the orchestra comes in or the piano comes in. Oh my goodness. Okay, great. So let's play from the beginning, nice and slow. Okay, I'll do another video for the next runs that come up.